right, the year is 2025. It is actually fall right now, and I've been very hesitant on making any updates to my bamboo grove this year because there's not a whole lot that's changed. There's not a whole lot to talk about. But I've had several people who've been asking me to do it, so here it is. There are a couple things I'm going to mention here. So first of all, this is officially the 9th year since the start of this grove. Now, last year I posted a video saying it was year 9. It depends on when you consider I started the grove, because I started it indoors and then moved it to outdoors. If you consider the time I started growing the bamboo, it's actually been 10 years, but starting the grove by planting it in the grove, it's actually only been 9. So next year, 2026, will be officially 10 years. 1 decade. So this year, there was hardly any new shoots that actually came up. So basically, like, what you're looking at here as far as like how many shoots there are and everything, it's the same as it was last year. I could probably count on 2 hands how many shoots I actually saw come up in the spring this year down below. There was hardly any. It's very weird that happens like that, because usually, even depending on how the winter went and everything, and whether it was good or bad, I usually get quite a few new shoots that grow. But this year I got hardly any. And I think it was actually because over this winter, I didn't really lose any bamboo canes. There's, as far as I know, like, none of them really died, except for a couple that got thrashed by deer antlers, by the bucks, during rutting season. There was about half of these canes here that actually, where the leaves turned brown. Like, most of the outside perimeter where the drying cold winds got to them, but most of the stuff that's on the inner part of it was still there. So I lost quite a few leaves. About like 50% of the leaves turned brown and fell off. And I kind of think that that's the reason why I didn't get a lot of new shoots, is because it put a lot of energy into the grove itself. Put a lot of energy into producing new leaves instead of new shoots. And since I didn't lose any canes, the shoots didn't have to replace any dead canes. I'm thinking that's what the actual issue is. It could be something else, though. And what some people probably don't realize about bamboo is, I guess if you don't know much about bamboo, you're not going to know this, but whenever you buy bamboo, you're not going to buy it from seed. It'd be extremely rare for anyone to actually buy it from seed. You actually purposely have to go find it. But if you're going to buy bamboo from anywhere, it's going to be growing in a pot. And that pot, the bamboo that's growing in that pot, is actually going to be just a segment of another part of a grove. And that grove could be really old. So depending on the type of bamboo can go to seed for anywhere from 10 to 20 years all the way up to 100 years. So in other words, if you were to buy bamboo from seed and grow it from seed, you have a very long time before it goes to seed. You probably never have to worry about it. But if you buy just bamboo itself that's already growing in a container, that could have been taken from a grove, which was taken from another grove, which was taken from another grove, and it could be decades old. And what happens when they go to seed is the whole grove dies. The whole colony, everything, it just dies. Technically, like, not 100% of it will be dead, but there'll still be like a tiny bit that might try to grow still. But for the most part, the whole thing dies, like 90+%. And then it'll drop seed, and then it'll start growing new stuff from seed, which will take quite a while for it to reestablish. But if I was to take a piece of bamboo from my grove here and give that to somebody else, what actually would happen is, if my grove goes to seed, so will that plant that I gave to somebody else at the exact same time. They're all on a genetic clock. So as soon as that starts growing and you start splitting it and sending it to different parts of the world, they will all go to seed at the exact same time. So the bamboo I got here, although it started with moso, there is no more moso because it didn't make it. This is all incense bamboo, which was already growing in a pot when I got it, and who knows how old it actually is. I mean, yes, the bamboo in the pot is probably only a year old, but the actual age of the organism itself could be way older, decades old. So what I'm getting at here is that it's possible that this grove could be getting ready to go to seed, maybe, which is why I didn't see a whole lot of new shoots come up. Or it could have been what I said initially. So with that out of the way, the only other change that I actually made here, as you can see, I actually removed the fence. So there wasn't really much of a barrier. It was just a few thin wire ropes and then some decorative rope. The decorative type rope, which was just a natural rope, started deteriorating and just falling apart. I had to get rid of it and just take it off of there. And I left the wire rope there just to sort of help deter the deer from wanting to go into there. And I've since then took it all down, because right now the grove is so dense, it doesn't really matter. If the deer go in there, they go in there. It's pretty dense though, and they don't really want to go in there. They would have to go around the backside where it's thinner, maybe go up in that area. But they're not going to hurt it at this point. It doesn't matter if they destroy some of the bamboo, which they have on the other side. They I think it was last fall, during rutting season, a couple of the bucks messed up a couple of the canes, not just a couple of them really, and just broke them in half. I think one of them actually jumped into the grove and maybe got stuck in there and jumped out, because the ones on the inside of the grove were busted over halfway, but nothing around it was. I think they jumped and it landed on it and broke it, because they didn't go in there with their antlers. They wouldn't have been able to do that. It was too dense to do that. So I think maybe a doe was in there and a buck was chasing her, and then she got kind of trapped in there and tried to jump out and just broke a couple individual canes. So anyways, like I said, there isn't a whole lot to update on the grove here, because nothing has really changed except for a couple of things I mentioned, I guess. So that's it for this year's update, and we'll see you next year.